Now we're in section 3. The same standards apply. This time the objectives, we're going to discuss Spanish-speaking South America, analyze the Spanish conquest of this region, and examine the education of Spanish-speaking South America. So this is going to talk about the Incan Empire. So there's 3 major empires that we're going to talk about in South America. You got the Aztec, the Maya, and the Inca, and we'll get more into them next year in world history. But in the early 1500s, the Inca Empire was at its height. The Spanish soldiers under Francisco Pizarro invaded the South American Empire and defeated the Inca. The Spanish conquest had a great impact on South America. It came in and completely changed South America. And so you see here, the colonizer is Spain. This is mostly talking about Peru, but Spain would come down to the trade route, circle back around, and come up because this is kind of how the trade was done at that point. This was before the Panama Canal, which would, allow crossing over easier. You can come down and come right back. But this was kind of how they would trade in Peru to begin with. South America is divided up into 2 major regions here, the Spanish-speaking South America and the Portuguese-speaking. The civilization of South America was created by the Inca, which were descendants of people that made their way from North America. Again, we talked about the Bering Strait land bridge. It's the most commonly accepted idea about how people got to North America. And so, and South America ultimately. And so that's kind of where the Incas believed that their descendants come from. The Incas believed to have migrated from North America on the Bering Strait, as I just mentioned, and formed the capital of Cusco, which is the Indian capital. They brought a number of tribes under control and unified them under the Incan Empire. So there's a bunch of different warring areas during this time. And so they're fighting over control, but were brought unified together to form what will become the Inca Empire. An empire is usually a large area of land that has a bunch of group of people under it that are all under one control. The Spanish that invaded the Inca did it trying to get gold. Well, again, that's the big thing going on here is that they want to try to get gold. They want to come in and take over because they think they're going to get Spain even richer. They forced the natives to work on farms, in mines, and on ranches. Laws were passed to protect the natives, but they didn't always obey these laws, and many of the natives died. So they passed laws about like work laws, but a lot of people ignored them, and there wasn't really nothing done to them about it. So this is just a timeline here. You can kind of see, you know how to read a timeline. The Inca Empire was founded by Manco Capac in 1200, and then you see as it continues on, the arrival of Francisco Pizarro in 1532. The Spanish conquest had devastating effects on the native population. Now, just a little about the Inca. Their native language is Quechua, which is the language of the Inca, and the Inca would be in control until the Spanish took over. The Spanish ruled in the region for about 300 years. Inspired by the American and French revolutions, the countries of South America also fought for independence from Spain. Argentina and Chile were the first South American countries to gain independence. Mountains and rainforests limit interaction in South America, which hinders development and political stability. So what happens here, there's not one government over South America. It's a bunch of different countries that have got their independence. It's different than Mexico. Mexico has control of their area. When it comes to Central and South America, they've all fought for independence. They've all got their separate countries. It's a lot like Africa. Africa has a bunch of separate countries that are there. And so it's hard to have political stability and to be in control of a bunch of areas because of the mountains and the rainforests, which limit this. An oligarchy is government by the few, and throughout South America, authoritarian rule delayed the development of democracy. Although many of the South American countries have gained democracy, many militarized, underdeveloped countries still exist. So you have a mix here of an oligarchy, or a government that's led by the few, a government that's authoritarian and controls everything. And then you have the democratic countries as well. Spanish-speaking South Americans have a strong literary heritage. Many South American writers write novels. You have popular music and folk music that are important to variations, arts, and tradition in South America. Street music is common, which includes different types of instruments, drums, guitars, marimbas, maracas, flutes. Classical music is also popular in South America. And you have a beautiful craft work such as pottery, glasswork, and textiles. Most economies in South America are based on agriculture. That's what it's based on. One of the advantages of the variety of products they're able to produce. You have different types of items such as shrimp, grain, oil, crops. These are a number of things that are grown. So this allows for a varied economy in South America because of this. Chile is South America's greatest success story. The export of fruit and vegetables to North America is an important part of Chile's economy. Chile is a large distributor of cotton. Many Spanish-speaking countries have a higher literacy rate than countries in Central America, the Caribbean, and Mexico. There's also a higher literacy rate for women as well in the Spanish-speaking South American countries. And higher education is important in South America. Chile's literacy rate is about 96%. That's insane. That's unheard of. Even in the United States, you don't have literacy rates this high. It's just very, very high rate. Education is also important, with kids aged 6 to 13 having to go to school. But after primary school is no longer free, only about 60% go. So the primary school is free. It's 6 to 13. But after that, it's no longer free. Only about 60% of the people actually go. There are many business schools in Chile as well. And that leads us to the end of section 3. Discuss Spanish-speaking South America. Analyze the Spanish conquest of the region. We talked about that with Francisco Pizarro and the Incans, the Incan population. And examine the education of Spanish-speaking South America. Again, their education standards are very high. They believe in higher education. They believe in literacy rates, all that kind of stuff. So this brings us to the end of section